So, Laura, is it true that you want to imprison Tory MPs in gulags and force them only to survive on eating Karl Marx's Das Kapital?
Honestly, no.
No, oh good, that's a denial. I'll make a note of that.
Let's set the record straight, Owen. There will not be compulsory Marx for any Tories. It would be helpful if they did read a bit of Marx.
I mean, eat it.
Oh,
That's
no.
what they've got to survive on.
No, come on. No, they won't. And I think what happened with Torygate was that... Hashtag Torygate was that, just classic spiralling, conflation of issues, people commenting about comments, and it all got out of hand. I was essentially saying, our energy is precious, we have very little time on this world, and I don't want to spend my time drinking with Tory MPs in this place, and that's quite a professional stance.
Because it's not all a joke, you mean? Because is that what your argument was like? Politics sometimes ends up like, it's all a bit of a joke, where you see people in your surgeries who are suffering as a consequence of policies by Tory MPs, and then you're supposed to go, do you know what, do you want to chicken it up, Pine? Is that what it was?
I know, and actually, I see my time here in Westminster as just, Monday to Thursday, head down, look for any opportunity to represent your constituents. The idea of going and getting really drunk with Tory MPs and separating out those two issues is fundamentally flawed for me, because I can't have people breaking down in my surgeries every single weekend, suicidal, with some of the unbelievable welfare reforms. I can't have people, suffering incredibly and not connect that to national decisions of Tory MPs. I am sure there are good people on the government benches, but they are shielded by their own privilege. And I genuinely think if they'd walked a few days in the life of some of my constituents, then they would have a very different view. Or if they had grown up in those communities, they'd have a very different view of how this country should be run.
So you talked about the benefit cuts, which your constituents have suffered and so on. Tell me about the impact. What? Because the government, they'll say, well, we just got to cut back on money, and we're making work pay, and all this dog whistle stuff about scroungers and skyvers you see in the British press. What's the reality on the ground? What do you see in your surgeries?
People that are suicidal, without a doubt. I represent an area that has the highest numbers of suicides. As my colleague Dan Carden said in the chamber, sometimes people will cry first and then tell you the story later, because they're just trying to, it's just like a relief to speak to somebody about it. I think, right, it's like a low level, and I don't say that to devalue anyone's experience, but there is, what is permeating our societies at the moment is a collective experience of, like, terror might be maybe a bit dramatic, but certainly fear, like lots of fear. To some people it is terror that their house is going to be taken off them, that they're not going to have enough money to eat. The Department for Work and Pensions is a national disgrace. The way it treats people, the facelessness, people come and say, like, I feel like a criminal, please look at this letter. So there's fear, there's terror, there is anxiety. And
what sort of benefit cuts are we talking about? What are the worst kind of...
Well, you've heard of this, but I don't think we can repeat it enough. But the work capability assessments are particularly degrading. Similarly, with personal independence payments are extremely degraded.
This is for disabled
That's
people.
right. So it replaces disability living allowance. They're not carried out by medical experts, but some called medical professionals. But they don't have expertise. And what this is doing, and the whole system, I think, and I'm particularly interested in what an ethical security system would look like. It's built on the presumption that people are liars. And I think it has to be built on the presumption that people are telling the truth. And yes, of course, we will root out those people that will be fraudulent, but they're so few in number that's barely worth talking about, as you know. There is a systemic failure to understand the nature of poverty in the DWP and the nature of unemployment, because, and this is, back to ideology, because it is a system designed specifically universal credit by people that haven't been in prolonged periods of unemployment.